So what is that going to be?
Right now it's just fabric. I don't have any set plan for it. And the pattern is just a random one that I found on Tartan Weaver. And the colors are made up.
But it's so pretty. So you put that thing through? Is that?
So this is a shuttle.
Uh-huh.
And when I'm pushing down on my foot pedals on the bottom, I'm
like a piano.
a little bit kind of like an organ.
Yeah.
I'm only using the middle 4, but every time I am doing a rotation, I have 4 different harnesses. So the threads are what are called heddles. So you can see they have like little holes right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So the threads are run through in succession, each one, just kind of going across, and then it repeats, so that when I'm pushing down on the first one and the 4th one, it will bring up 2 threads, but 2 threads will also stay down. And that is what creates the kind of vertical pattern that you see. Just a plain weave or a tabby weave. Mm-hmm. I can create a twill by how it's threaded and how I am running my foot pedals, which makes for a more interesting piece, in my opinion. Plain weave is also fine, but it can be boring. And then what I'm doing going across is called the weft.
I didn't know there was other.
So you, in creating your pattern, have to calculate your warp and your weft. Anyways, so lengthwise is warp, widthwise is weft. When you're calculating how wide you want your piece, how long you want your piece, how many in here for the what's called the reed. You basically have to calculate per inch for the reed how many threads are going to be in it. So there are some types of weaving where you can run multiple threads through the same slot, and that can pack it a little more tightly. But there's also different reeds where this one is 12 ends per inch. Maybe there's another one over there, but the metal pieces can be spaced out more or even more tightly together. So there's like 8 ends per inch, 10 ends per inch, and that determines kind of the thickness or density of your fabric that you're making, but it also determines, if I have 12 ends per inch and my reed is set at 12 ends per inch and it's 45 inches across, well, I don't want to use the entire width of it. I probably could, but I don't really care to, just as long as it's taking up enough space. I think this one is probably around 36 inches, maybe about a yard, maybe a little less than a yard, wide. But I think it's roughly 300 ends per inch. So then not per inch, but it's 300 ends total. So 300 individual threads across. And then you have to do that same calculation going lengthwise so that when you purchase your fiber, you make your warp, you're working on your weft as you go, but you have enough fiber for the whole thing, which is a lot. But I think that's definitely something I'm still learning, proper calculations, because I don't think I've ever done a piece where I didn't have an excess of leftover thread, because I end up over calculating because I would rather have too much than too little, but also it can be a bit much if you're like way over calculating. So some of the threads in here for this piece are leftovers from previous things that I've made. Like, for example, you can kind of tell this dark brown in mine is probably the same brown that I'm using right here. So if you have leftover stuff, you can just reuse it for a different project if you have enough of it, or, you know, what have you.
But that's the wood part is the for the warping. I remember the English.
The wooden sticks there, or the beam itself?
Both.
Honestly, I don't remember if the sticks have a specific name or not. They're just sticks. I don't know.
But they keep it
warp sticks or whatever.
Have a control.
Yeah, they help with tension because, I mean, you can probably see it better on the other side, but there's actually a few black threads on the very end that have like slipped off. And are a bit looser. So as a result, these end threads on this side could end up being a bit looser in the overall tension of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which actually, honestly, this side feels looser than that side. But I feel like overall I've had a bit more practice with not being as worried about my tension being even overall, and more so paying attention to how I'm utilizing my reed when I'm pulling this back, which is why you can see the tension here is a lot different. So if I'm not packing each thread in as tightly as I possibly can, that kind of makes up for any sort of length tension that are issues, because it just allows it to kind of shift and move, because it just has more space to move, I guess. And I don't know how technical that is when it comes down to actually weaving or whatnot, but you know, that's just something that I pay attention to when I'm working on it, at least. Except now
But that's neat. And Jenny Ruth was filling in your yarn.
Oh, the bobbins, yeah.
The bobbins.
Probably, for me, that's the most annoying part of this whole thing, because, sorry, a lot of doing this whole thing is just stopping and thinking. Winding the bobbins for me is the most annoying part, because often I'm working faster than they can be filled. So, I mean, not necessarily, but I'll end up, 2 hours in, and I need all of the bobbins rewound again. So that's where I usually get my dad to help out, because I can make him wind out the bobbins for me while I weave. It's great. Then I just, live my life.
Then it's cool how you just slide it through.
It is fun too, because it's kind of like riding a bike, where once you do it once, you never really lose the feel for it. So Like, I haven't done any weaving since last season.
Oh.
So this is like getting right back into it.
Kind of like riding a bike.
Yeah. Except I'm still stuck. Stopping and thinking. Also, this is just a different pattern, so it's like trying to remember.
I think yesterday was a picture of the pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My colored pencils. It's my most favorite part of the whole thing. Is doing the colored pencil version of the.
So when you're done with that, what do you, is this just gonna be fabric and that's it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can be used for a lot of different things. Like this piece I made that I'm sitting on. Yeah, obviously for my bodice. I made this one probably 4 years ago. So obviously it can be made into clothing. Most of the other projects I've worked on were commissioned like tartans. So it's kilts that our members here have worn. Like Chris has one. Blacksmith Michael has one. But they are pretty thick and they're pretty warm because it is 100% wool. So I know they don't always wear them a ton. Yeah. And then I think Bill wants to commission one for next year. But this year I was like, I need to do something that it doesn't matter what the end result looks like, and I'm not stressed over getting it done in time or making it look flawless or whatever. So that's when it would be kind of fun because if anybody at all out here wants to work on it, or even patrons or whatever, I don't really care. So it will be a great cooking piece and kind of something to mess around with. And even if it doesn't get done by the end of the season, great, I'll cut it off. I don't really care. Because also it's not like I can't, bring it up on another loom or just have it as a backup warp or whatever.
Is it hard to get it ready?
It's a process. We put it on Saturday last week. No, Sunday last week. By myself, it would have taken 2 days. Michelle, surprisingly, came out of the woodworks and was like, "Yes, please, let me help." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So we got it done in 1 day.
Wow.
But it's individually threading every single thread, first through the reed and then through each individual petal by hand. So it took all day. And if you're
And who taught you to do that? You just self-taught.
I was taught by Susan Clark, who she was a previous member. She passed away several years ago. But she was the previous master weaver before me. You can ask pretty much any one of our other members about her, and they'll tell you all about it. But yeah, she was the master weaver. She taught me everything I know, and I just kind of took it over after her because nobody else really stepped up, and at the time I was the only one that she was teaching. Really had any interest in doing this, so yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. I feel like that's generally what happens within the group is you just kind of land and roll and what you do,
Yeah. It's actually cool. That's a good thing that that's why we're doing this video, so we can get new people.
Yeah.
I want to learn new things.
Which definitely would be beneficial. And I said,
That way we don't lose the art.
yeah. Because that's probably been one of the things that has been harder for me over the years. Something's threaded in properly. And this is where I get to stop and fix things.